Hello everyone, welcome to the Ozark Outpost in Dixon, Missouri. This is the Commonwealth in July 1936. A couple of interesting things happened as I was thinking about what to do on this turn for the Commonwealth. The first I'll cover over here, we talk about what money was spent. I'm using the money chipset that Historical Board Gaming sells instead of Battle Bucks. I like these a lot better because you can just, at a glance, see how much money everybody has in their bank rather than having to pick the stacks of bills up and count them. But I bought the deluxe chipset, which was the largest set available for sale. And here, halfway through the first turn of the game, I have all of my green 1 IPC chips on the board. I don't have any left at this point. So if you're thinking about using the chips, you might want to consider getting some extras. That's something I'm going to have to include in my next purchase from them. Anyway, Great Britain started out with 10 pounds to spend on their turn. They chose to move light carrier there, which was in position 2. They moved it up to the place units box. That cost them 4 pounds. And they bought Militia for another 2, and they saved 4. Now back behind them we have FEC, which I'm probably from here on out just going to refer to as the Indian Army, because that's what Far East Command was. It was the British Army in India and the Indian Army itself. They started out with 5, and they're in the center, bought 2 militia, so they have 1 rupee left in their bank. Behind them you have ANZAC. They started out with 3 and purchased 1 militia, so they've got $1 left. The Canadians in the back of the row there started with 3 and decided to save all 3 of their dollars for the next turn. Over here, we've got 1 research roll chip, because at present, Great Britain has 1 major factory down there in London. They've got a minor up here in North England, but that doesn't do them any good for research. And of course, they don't have any major factories anywhere else on the board because those are only allowed in home country. So let's get over here and do the research roll. Make a little adjustment here. My tables get crowded up pretty easy. The British are going to try for advanced ASW. That's something they're definitely going to have because more than any other country in the game here, they have the most to lose through convoy raiding. So they need a 7 or better to do something there. They rolled a 4, didn't get it. Okay, Naturally, there won't be any combat moves because nobody is at war with anyone. For non-combat moves, the Canadians over here aren't going to do anything. They're just going to maintain the status quo. There really isn't much for them to do until they're at war with someone. Because the Canadians have restrictions on the size of their peacetime army and what they can do with it. They can't move any units out of Canada prior to being at war, except for the Queen's Own Rifles there in Ontario and the Patricias, the light infantry there in Manitoba. But there really isn't any reason to shift them around just yet. Excuse me 1 second here. I'm going to do the guys out on the periphery first. Adjust this up here. Now there we go. We are going to move down here in India. We're going to take this infantry from Calcutta, non-combat, move it to Bengal. We are going to call that good there for now. The Navy's all going to stay where it is. Down here in ANZAC, let me adjust a little bit here. See if I can reach over the camera and do this. We're going to take this transport and go 2 spaces up to here. We're picking up these 2 militias. We're going to drop one of them in New Guinea. Going to drop the other one over here at New Britain. And we are going to non-combat move this motorized infantry and artillery from Sydney to New South Wales. Hopefully I wasn't in the way of you seeing what went on there. Then over here, move the camera again and get it adjusted. Over here in Great Britain, there we go. We're going to take this militia from North England and we're going to move it up here to Scotland so the Highlanders are not left unprotected. I'm not going to non-combat move any of the Navy right now. They can all stay where they are. No, that's not correct, because this brings me to the other interesting thing that I discovered looking around the map earlier. Down here in the Med, you see there the Mediterranean Squadron there off of Egypt. Watching videos that other guys have put out for version 2 play as a way of helping myself learn how to play this game. In that rule set, you could place ships on the map at what that game called Navy bases. In the version 3 game, they're called ports. But in this new rule set, you are not allowed to do that. the only facility that you can use to put new ships on the map is a shipyard. And I discovered the British do not have a single shipyard in the Mediterranean basin. I thought about it a little bit and decided the reason they can't do that is that shipyards have to be connected to a factory by an undamaged railway in order to be able to produce the ship components. So the only way to increase the size of the Med Squadron down there is to move ships in from other parts of the world. Either take units from the home fleet here around the British Isles, or from the South Atlantic Squadron down there, or from the Indian Ocean Squadron over there, the FEC Navy. I suppose you could also get the Australians and New Zealanders to kick some ships in, but that wouldn't be very smart because they're going to have their hands full with the Japanese one of these days. So, we all know that Italy, right there, also has a fleet. But unlike the Brits, that's Italy. That's their home country. So they do have shipyards. Quite a few, actually. They've got 2 minors and 3 majors there that they can use to produce ships to increase the size of their fleet and try to kick the Brits out of the Med. So, one of the things I'm going to have to do is transfer ships in. So out there, right there off of the Iberian Peninsula and the northwest corner of Africa, we have a heavy cruiser and a destroyer that, like it or not, we're going to have to move in here to order to offset what the Italians are going to do. So, I'll move these guys. 1, that's a huge sea zone. 2, so we're going to add a heavy cruiser to the Mediterranean Squadron. And we're also going to bring this destroyer in to augment them. Now, I'll replace that extra destroyer with a chip under the one that was already there when I'm finished here to save some room. Because I have to do that, I think I'm going to have to do another non-combat move from the home fleet here. I'm going to take this destroyer off of Ireland here and move it down to replace the 2 that I moved into the Med. So he can go 1, 2, 3. He can't quite get there on this turn, but that'll get him a start. Yes. Like I said, once I thought about it, I understood the logic between not being able to build ships in the Med. But the realization kind of took me by surprise that the British wouldn't be able to reinforce directly in theater. That's going to be a consideration that I'll have to keep an eye on. Otherwise, the Italians could get an advantage and overpower them pretty quickly. That's, of course, not something that we want to happen. Set this down here for a second. So now we're going to see if I can figure out where I am here. Now we're going to place units. The British are going to take the militia that they built, and they're going to put it here in northern England to replace the one that moved up to Scotland. While we're right here, we have a light cruiser, a destroyer, and a submarine in the place units box. The light cruiser is going to go down here with this fleet because they don't have one yet. We can place that because of this minor shipyard right here. This destroyer, shift back over here again. This destroyer is going to join the home fleet up here in the North Sea. And the submarine, for right now, I think is also going up here in the North Sea. Now down here in India, we're going to take the two Indian militia and, well, I have to make sure I do this correctly. That's a minor factory, so it can only be used to place one unit. So we're going to place one militia there in Calcutta. Since factories are not required to place militia, I'm just going to use the chip for right now. I'll put a militia marker out there in a minute. Benares is where, no, change that. Burma is where we're going to place our other militia. Reinforce that frontier a little bit. And then adjust up here to Australia. There we go. We're going to take the ANZAC militia and put him down here at Sydney. Now, talking about placing militia brings me to another logistical anomaly, I guess. Well, not anomaly, but consideration, I guess, that has come up. I bought a total of 80 militia markers for my game set. As I said, I'm just halfway through the first turn, and I have 77 of my 80 militia markers on the board. I have 3 left in my box here. So, if you're thinking about getting into this game, that's something else to keep in mind. You use lots and lots of militia in this game because they are a cheap defender. If you just need somebody to squat on a territory so that it's not a walk-in, you can do it for with a 2 IPP militia rather than a 3 IPP infantry. And given the income levels in this game, as the old men used to say, every penny counts. So, let's see. All I have left to do here for this turn is collect income. Yeah, we're done with our moves. Yes. So, the British are going to collect 11 added to the 4 that they saved. There they are. We'll give them 15. Hey, I can get some of those green chips back. They'll have 15 pounds to spend next turn. The Indians collect 5, which will give them 6 rupees in their treasury. ANZAC collects 3, which will give them $4. And then the Canadians will collect 3 again, which will give them $6. We'll see what they can do with that stuff next turn. It looks like... Yes, it looks like that's it. Well, I checked before I did this. Nobody qualifies for any peacetime income increases. The other guys haven't done anything bad enough yet to spark that. So it looks like that'll wrap this turn up for the Commonwealth. This is the Ozark Outpost. Over and out.